Bench opinions. Three idiots with amateur analysis.
I'm not the loudest person in the room.
Well, I mean, you're still going to be the loudest person in the room because Dominic's not here with us today.
Dominic's not here today. It's the two of us.
Yeah.
Welcome to this week's in-depth football analysis show with me and Klaus.
Oh, God.
Kidding. It's going to be exclusively rugby.
Exclusively rugby?
Yeah, no.
There's nothing else to talk about.
No, there's one or two things I'll ask you, but
Okay.
It's mainly rugby. Firstly, tell me how your weekend in London was with me.
With you. Yeah, our weekend in London. With Dominic as well. He's still there.
We're not mentioning Dom anymore. He's abandoned us.
Okay, so he's no longer part of the conversation. No, it was lovely. We went to Twickenham, or the Alliance Stadium as it's now called, unfortunately. And the game was great because obviously we'll talk about that just now, why it was great. But also I think we've spoken about this in the past, that going to the UK is always fun for us because of the culture and the friendliness and the banter. And obviously we've got a lot of friends that live over that side of the strait. So it's always a good time, seeing.
So this to you yesterday, I feel like just even going to the supermarket there feels more like going to the supermarket back home. You get a lot of the sense that you might be in a local Woolies.
Funny you say that because I was actually watching an Instagram reel of, I think it was either an Irish girl or an English girl, I can't remember. And she was saying, she lives in South Africa now, has been living there for 3 months. She's like, guys, why is nobody talking about Woolworths?
Yeah.
Like, you guys talk about the mountain. She lives in Cape Town. We talk about the mountain. You talk about the ocean. You talk about the sunset, sundowners. It's like, Woolies. That's what you guys need to be talking about.
It's difficult to convey to people who haven't been in it because it is a grocery store.
Yeah.
What it really is.
I mean, it is just the Sainsbury's or Tesco's.
I think it's more with what's it, Marks and Spencer's.
Marks and Spencer's. Yeah. It's actually
not just the Tesco's.
Sorry.
I cannot. Although,
apologies.
Even like your Checkers and a Spa and stuff is really nice.
Checkers has really
picked up their game.
Really picked up their game. They've really made moves to compete against the likes of a Woolies.
Yeah,
definitely. And being sponsors of the Springboks, they kind of have to.
This is not a sponsor of the Springboks. Have you seen all the ads that have come out recently with the Springboks in them?
No.
I'm gonna send them to you on Instagram. They're terrible.
And the Bomb Squad one.
The Bomb Squad one is terrible. Then
I don't even know who that ad was for.
I also couldn't figure it out.
Just remember the ad.
What's the other one that Fiona sent me yesterday? I'll have to send it to you afterwards. It's terrible. I don't know if we have to get all of these guys into acting now.
But probably. The thing is, when the Springboks are doing well, it's the number one celebrities in the country, right? So they just plaster them all over the
South African. I feel like South African ads are so hit and miss. Like if they're good, they're really good. Like they're so funny and they're like tongue in cheek. And when they're bad, they are so bad. Like I thought that Bomb Squad one was so cringeworthy. It was so cringeworthy that it was already good again.
Yeah.
But it was. I don't know if we have to do this to our eyes.
South African advertising is definitely, as you say, hit and miss. But when they get it right, it's so good. I mean, think about all those chicken licking ads, and they are.
Nando's ads are good. Like
Nando's ads.
Sometimes MTN was also good. Anyways, sorry if I sound a bit nasally today. I'm a bit sick. Got my med lemon here.
Doing some steaming this morning. I've heard them from my bedroom.
Yeah. I stayed with friends of ours who have twins, and I have newfound respect for being a parent, but also those children can pass on some bacteria, man.
Yeah.
That's hectic. One kid coughed in my mouth.
Yeah, unfortunately.
In my open mouth.
Kids are little cesspools just running around.
They're very cute.
They're very cool,
yeah. I've got something to ask you before we get started regarding your foot. Something that I noticed yesterday lying on the couch.
Okay, here we go.
So, and this is coming from a position of love. But I just want to know if what I saw is really what happened. So, out of the corner of my eye, I saw you on a work call, a video call. I saw you put your laptop down, flick your injection.
Yeah.
Sit back down, pick your laptop back up, and in a video call, jab yourself in the stomach with an injection. And I was sitting there wondering to myself, like, what the hell? First of all, who were you on a call with? Second of all, could you have not injected yourself off camera? And that's it.
Those are your questions? I understand the shock and horror.
That's wild.
First of all, the guy I was on the call with, it was a work call, but he's also a mate. Second of all, I angled the camera in such a way that you couldn't actually see the injection.
I literally heard you saying, "Oh, I'm just injecting myself," which leads me to believe that he must have been asking, "What the hell are you doing?"
No. He was wondering why I wasn't responding. in that
God.
moment.
So
But that call went on for ages. It was like a 2-hour call.
did,
so
but
I wanted to
you
just
put
get
your
it done.
laptop down to flick your injection. So I don't know
No,
why.
I need to lean forward to get the injections. It was
I
at the
don't
end of
know
the
why
table.
you just didn't inject yourself with the laptop still next to you.
Look, I would
This
be
led
lying.
me.
I would be lying if I said I thought that through.
This led me to the conclusion, and like I said, coming from a position of love, you're milking this now.
I want people to see.
You
People
want
need
people
to
to be
see
like,
me in distress.
What are you doing? Oh, you're injecting yourself? How terrible.
Maybe that's what I'm subconsciously doing. Because that being said, I did inject myself in the restaurant in London.
Yeah, that was also weird.
So maybe,
But I mean, you
maybe
got to
this
do it.
was-
You got to
maybe
do it to
this-
survive.
Maybe this is what I need. I need people to see me. I need people to recognize.
I see your pain, Klaus,
Thank you.
and I'm glad it's almost over.
There's actually no pain. It's just inconvenience to everybody involved.
No, you did very well in London. I already mentioned you in Edinburgh, but you're a trooper. We cover a lot of distance. You can't get close to that Twickenham Stadium by car. So you did have to cover a large bit of distance. I carried you for a bit of way. You're bloody heavy.
You carried me for a very long distance. I was actually very
And then I
impressed.
had to eat immediately after that 2 cheeseburgers just to get some sustenance in me again.
Get the calories back in your system. Yeah, I was looking at the steps that we did over the weekend in Edinburgh and the weekend in Twickenham or in London, and I think it was 8,500 steps per day, Saturday and Sunday.
I heard you say this to the guy on the video, and I wasn't going to bring it up today, but I doubt that. I don't know where you would have done 8,000 steps in Edinburgh.
No, not in Edinburgh. In England. In London.
In England.
In Edinburgh, it was 6,000 or something. I can show you my app.
I think your app is lying to you.
Maxi is not a supporter of Apple, so anything that Apple says, whether it be weather, the
guys are all-
time,
You guys are all part of a cult,
or steps,
and you all celebrate it so wildly. Let's get into some sport.
Let's chat about some sport.
Before you slipped down the stairs trying to get to your seat, because we weren't
Oh,
sitting in the same spot, what did you see of the game? Mind you, we were sitting, so Claus and I weren't sitting together because buying a ticket for England rugby is impossible. So I think there must have been about 12 of us going to the game, and all of us sat in different seats, but we sat close to one another. And him slipping up the stairs as he walked past me, and it was quite slippery with beer on the stairs, and it just went, and he planted right next to me, and he looked right, and there I was, a smiling face next to him.
Just sitting there, thumbs up. He's like, "Hi, Klaus. How are you?"
I thought he did it on purpose. What did you see in the game?
What did I see in the game? Like tactically, or what do you mean?
Run me through what your emotions were.
Well, first of all, going to Twickenham is always really fun. And getting closer to the stadiums, they've got all the little stores set up in the not the parking lot, but the driveways of the different houses. And so I like the atmosphere of going there.
Wouldn't be able to do that in Germany. People don't have a license.
No. I'm sure that the owners of those properties probably rent out those spaces to make a bit of money out of it.
Some of
Think
those
so.
kids were selling like biscuits and stuff.
Okay, not the kids, but like the stores that were set up, like the Boerewolf stores.
Church was selling parking for a ridiculous price. I think they were charging like £40 or something for parking. The church, yeah.
That's the church for you, man.
Let's not get into it.
They gotta get you. So yeah, the atmosphere at Twickenham is always a lot of fun. Even walking in, there was a guy on a megaphone shouting out all sorts of banter. And then we got into the stadium. As Max said, we were right at the top. I think our mate Bjorn and myself were the second last row from the roof, which was an interesting place to sit because you get like a bird's eye perspective, but then you're also so far away that the ball is a little bit tricky to see. So half the time you find yourself watching the big screen just so you can kind of get a detailed view. The game itself was really entertaining because it was a close game again.
Yeah. And England played really well.
Unfortunately for us, yeah, England played it really well, and I think England has really showed in the last 3 games. I know against Australia they're going to be kicking themselves because that was a bit of a disappointing one, but against New Zealand they pushed them all the way to the end. Against us, they pushed us pretty much all the way to the end. I felt like we didn't really get our second gear again, just like with Scotland. We didn't really play too well. Our lineouts were
Still
failing,
terrible.
overthrowing, throwing skew. Like there were all sorts of sort of bad habits that were creeping in. But you got to give credit to England in terms of managing our kicking game.
Yeah.
I heard in in an interview with Rusty, he was saying that we were trying to target Marcus Smith.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they knew because they kept on switching the positions of where Marcus Smith and Freddie Stewart
What
was
a player
standing.
he is, hey?
And
Marcus
Freddie
Smith.
Stewart, well, both of them, yeah.
Freddie
Marcus
Stewart
Smith,
under the high ball is, I don't
Freddie Stewart was catching balls like he could play for the NFL. That
Yeah.
was unreal. But like above his head, behind his
It's
head, in
ridiculous.
the air, it was unreal. It's like his hands are made of glue.
And Marcus Smith.
Marcus Smith also did extremely well in the back to clean things up and manage that. But what Marcus Smith also did really well is, and this is testament of that first try, is seeing space where others don't. I mean, he caught the ball. It looked like he was going to go for a drop goal. I think he haven't overcommitted
really
a little bit.
back into that pocket though.
Yeah, he haven't really like chased him down, and
I mean,
as you would. I mean,
because he charged down a couple.
Because he did charge, but that happened later in the game. But yeah, and that was.
You got to bring that energy. Don't give up on lost causes, or what was it?
Don't give up on lost causes. Yeah, always chase. What does Peter Steffler do? He always chases a plastic bag. Or something.
There's it.
Anyway, Mark Smith steps off his right, cuts back left against the grain, and then it's a 3-on-3, and they score.
Yeah.
In the corner, and you're just like, my word.
Talk about finding space where no one else does.
Exactly.
Grant Williams.
Grant Williams is
that man can find a gap.
That guy can also step. My word, he's. I don't know.
That try was ridiculous.
And it was Freddie Stewart that he then stepped, eh?
Yeah, and it was, thank goodness it was on our side because it was in the first half, so we saw it. And that cross kick from Mani was also on our side.
That was properly on our side, yeah. That was even on the left side of the pitch for us, yeah. What do you think of Mani's game?
Yeah, it's something that I had jotted down to talk about. It's tough. It's really tough. He's such an amazing playmaker, but if you're missing, if it's such a close game against England and you've missed, I don't know how many kicks he missed. I would have said maybe two or three. Those 6 or 9 points are the difference. They're the difference also not in terms of at the end of the game, but also in the game, how the opposition reacts and how they play differently because there's different pressure points. And I think Rassi said before the game he's putting Mani in so that Mani can put his hand up and show that he belongs because there's others in the pipeline. And I don't know if he did that. Because I don't know if his gameplay is going to be enough to get him through because there's Sasha, Hendrikse, there's Siamasuku who hasn't even gotten a chance. There's other players who also have the ability to do a little bit more in the backline than just kick that are probably going to be waiting. And Damien can also play at 10. So,
and he's not the youngest, right? He's not. It's not like he's a 23-year-old who's still got a long career ahead of him. He's sort of pushing on 28 or something like that.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they sort of. I don't think he'll be immediately dropped, but I wouldn't be surprised if you sort of see him phase out a little bit, and then especially when Sasha comes back next year, that you're going to see a different. Because by the looks of it, they were bringing what they had discussed was bringing Andre on at 12, because Damien ran off.
Exactly.
So
that's the question: is if you can give the kicking duties to somebody else.
Well, I mean,
is he still good enough to be in the team?
Well, clearly not, because otherwise Rusty would have left him on. But I thought his gameplay was good enough. But I don't know why they would have then not taken Damien off.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting because like he does produce moments of gold. You know, if you remember back to the Scotland game, he did the crossfield kick for
the no look.
Whoever it was to Mapimpi. No, that on the World Cup as well. Yeah, I was talking about the just past Scotland game. Then the crossfield kick now for Cheslin.
Yeah, I
mean he can kick out of hand.
He can.
It's just off the tee.
Mind you, his kicking out of hand into touch was also not great on Saturday. He missed one, didn't get into touch, and then he started getting very conservative with sort of trying to get that territory.
Make sure it goes into the crowd and
like 5 meters in front of you. And the South African crowd, just in regards to Mani, is terrible though. They are terrible. Obviously, rugby in South Africa brings out the best of South Africa, but it also brings out the worst. And I had the worst sitting next to me in those stands. They were so obnoxious and they were so loud. I was so glad that they were at least speaking Afrikaans so that the English didn't hear them, because I thought it was embarrassing how they're terrible.
What were the likes of things that they would say?
You always pride rugby fans on being not too hostile towards the opposition and being a bit on the banter side, you know?
Yeah.
And the stuff they were saying was quite personal and it was quite rude. And obviously when Mani was struggling, they're the loudest ones to tell him to get off. And I was just thinking to myself, fucking hell, you probably pant when you walk up the stairs here and you're criticizing an athlete for the little mistakes that he makes. And I actually started talking, an English guy sitting next to me, struck up conversation, and he was like, you South African fans are quite lovely. And I was like, listen, you don't have to lie to me.
Just me.
You don't have to lie to me. And then he was like, yeah, listen, you get very passionate. And I was like, there's a difference between passion and arrogance. And South African fans really need to watch out that we don't fall into this arrogant trap, because we're not that good. We're good, but we're not so good that we can afford to be that arrogant.
Also, why necessarily do we have to go to that? We're the bad guys.
Yeah.
No, we have been considered that in the past because of our style of play, and we're the more aggressive, physical team, and that's why we've been sort of pictured like that. But now our team is changing that narrative. Why are we still, as fans, being that?
Absolutely.
And I don't like it. I like hanging out with Scots, and you always want to support them because they're just so nice.
And you're a guest in their stadium, even if you live in London, you've immigrated there, you're a Londoner, you're still a guest in their stadium, which doesn't mean you need to be shy or anything, but show a little bit of respect.
Yeah, be passionate, show gears.
Yeah. But obviously they were
shout for your team, but
on a lot of the juice. So
I mean, who wasn't?
That's also true.
Who wasn't?
Let's run through.
Actually, I wanted to ask you who were your standout players for both teams.
I think on the South African side, Grant Williams takes it for me.
Interesting that he hasn't been selected for the next match against Wales. Then.
Yeah, but I also understand the intrigue of putting those brothers together. I think that's something very cool and nice storyline for Rassie to tell. But I think Grant will be number one going forward now, in my eyes.
Also to Faf?
Yeah. I honestly think Faf might be phased out as well, slowly because of his age. And on the English side, I think it was Marcus Smith.
Marcus Smith.
Yeah. And yourself?
For me, also, I thought Grant was phenomenal. Still upset that Grant didn't come on sooner in the Scotland game.
Yeah.
He's just got so much. He brings so much energy to the game, and really keeps the defensive line guessing.
Yeah.
And for me, on the English side, Freddie Stewart, man.
Yeah.
What he did in the air was unreal.
Yeah.
Yes, he did get stepped to to next year with Cheslin.
But I mean, I don't know a player who wouldn't, because Cheslin has done that to almost everyone in world rugby.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
But
he got stepped by Cheslin and he got stepped
by Grant.
So he got.
But I mean, yeah.
Maybe he's not the most agile, but in the air he was phenomenal, and like he did manage the game.
I was gonna say Cheslin probably also deserves a word, because what he did in that game was also unbelievable. We're going to get to the Rugby Awards later, where we're going to talk about it a little bit more. Let's run through some other results of that weekend. Australia putting a cricket score up against Wales.
Absolutely demolishing them.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very exciting to see an up-and-coming Australia team. What Joe Schmidt's done there in terms of turning the team around. I mean, I think it wasn't even 4 weeks ago, and we were saying like, "Oh, Australia is terrible," and what's the point of them even playing? And they've completely lost all momentum to rugby league in their own country. And now you see them putting up scores like that, and even last week beating England. So what Joe Schmidt has managed to turn around there is unreal. And they've got that player that plays for them. I forget his name now.
That league player that switched.
League player that switched. I mean, I know he played Union back in his day, but the fact that he can so seamlessly integrate himself into a Union international team is unbelievable. And so it's very exciting to have them back, especially with the World Cup in their home country, and also with the British and Irish Lions tour coming up next year.
I think so. I think for them to become competitive now would be great for the Lions tour. And Scotland, I think, will be their biggest test coming up this weekend.
I think so.
Obviously with England.
With England, yeah. What is very sad, though, is you don't want to see a failing Wales side.
That's on the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
Where are Wales now? Where do they go from here? Because if you look at the remaining games that they play, they play us, which you never know what happens in rugby, but we are the heavy favourites. And then they go into Six Nations again, where although the Six Nations is a bit more open with teams not being as strong as they have been, you don't see them beating many people other than Italy.
Yeah. And that being said, even Italy, still cause some
Even
upsets. I
Italy's
mean,
strong.
they beat France last year. So
They did.
they do have potential. They are playing. Benetton is playing very well in the URC, so they have players of great skill and quality. Wales has always been struggling with administration, with
Do they fire Gatlin now or not?
the thing is, who else do you get?
Well, apparently he gets a shitload of money, which
Mm.
the Welsh Union can't really afford. So find someone cheaper to build with.
Yeah, do you then go for somebody fresh, new?
Yeah, they must have someone in their youth setup who can coach.
Yeah, because Gatlin's got, 12 losses in a row now?
Yeah, but they probably can't afford to buy him out of his contract.
That's probably the other problem.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one. I don't know where Wales goes from here, but everybody definitely wants to have a strong Wales side back again because it's just good for the game.
Yeah, for sure. I heard an argument that the reason that they really have experienced such a dip after being one of the best sides in the world maybe 5 or 6 years ago is that they didn't bring enough young players into a very established squad. They had that 23 that was with Alan Wynne-Jones and some other names that was so established.
Yeah.
They didn't do what Russie is doing now, which I don't
Jones, another
Jones and Jones.
Yeah.
And whereas Russie's going to be using 52 players this year, they didn't bleed enough youngsters just to take over. And when it was time for the new people to come in, they just aren't ready to pick up the baton.
Yeah.
Big game, France versus New Zealand.
Big game, essentially the World Cup opening game repeat.
Yes.
And went France's way again, didn't it?
It did go France's way. It didn't have to, though. It was a tight one.
It was a tight one.
I know the New Zealand commentary online was very disappointed with the ref.
Oh yeah, what are they saying?
A lot of their pundits now seem to lean on the fact that they want less TMO. And I heard a guy literally say they'd rather have the ref make the wrong call and then we move on. I thought to myself, how is that the future? How is the future the ref literally making the mistake and then moving on? If the ref had sent off Sam Cane in the final with a red card and it was a mistake, you would not hear the end of it.
No.
So
that makes no sense.
I think
no sense.
Yeah, they're in a dark space right now. See if they can get out of it. Ireland, Argentina, also very tight.
Very tight. And this goes into the same conversation that we had last week, where is everybody else getting better or is Ireland getting worse?
Yeah.
And I think Ireland is currently not where they thought they were. I think they're experimenting with a lot of new players though. The Crowley and the Frawley and all those guys at 10 especially. They just haven't been able to find somebody to replace Johnny Sexton.
Yeah.
And I think that's now really shining through, is that Johnny Sexton was so instrumental in their setup last year. And since then, it's been a real struggle to get that group dynamic going and somebody to actually manage the game properly. They relied that heavily on him. A standout player for them, however, is Josh van der Fleer.
Always.
That guy is always putting a 10 out of 10 performance. And he's
a
a little bit like
Kenan Doris.
He's
also very good.
Yeah.
So they still have those big players, but there's also a few of them that are aging out, eh?
Yeah,
so
they're not the youngest. Yeah.
I'm intrigued to see if they've got the depth to replace those guys. On Argentina, though, had they not started so slowly in that game, they could have made it a grand slam against the top nations in the world.
Yeah, I mean, if they had an extra 5 minutes, they probably could have done it.
Yeah,
they were that aggressive towards the end in terms of scoring points.
It would have been a year, correct me if I'm wrong, where they beat France, New Zealand, and South Africa,
and Australia. Yeah, well, Australia's currently not one of the top, but
which would have been wild.
Yeah, that's very impressive for multiple reasons. Because A, I don't think they've done that before. B, I think for the first time in a long time they've got an Argentinian coach.
Yeah.
which is interesting to see. South Africa, we always talk about like, oh, we've also only got South African coaches because we understand our players better. And maybe that the same can be said for a team like Argentina, is that their coach just knows how to get to them and emotionally sort of psych them up for these games.
Yeah.
I think Argentina's downfall is the same downfall it's been for the last 20 years, 30 years. Is their passion and their emotions just get to the best of them sometimes?
Yeah, it's always a fine line with them because it drives them to play such expansive rugby, but also they lose their heads a little bit sometimes.
They do lose their heads. They're getting better at it.
Yeah.
And because they were getting better at that particular aspect of their game, I think that's where you see them also improving.
Yeah.
And I think once they've really got that nailed down, watch out.
Yeah, they're
gonna
going
be
to. I guess the next step for them is making it past a semi-final in a Rugby World Cup, because that's sort of where
That's their blocker, yeah.
sorry, where they are currently. Talking about coaches, we didn't mention him earlier when we spoke about England. What about Steve Borthwick? Is he under pressure?
I don't think so. Not anymore.
You don't think he's under pressure anymore because he lost to South Africa?
not because he lost to South Africa, not because he lost to New Zealand,
not because he lost to Australia.
Lost to Australia
and lost to New Zealand twice before. He's five losses on the trot now for England.
Yeah, I don't think there's pressure because of the way that they're playing. Like they're not throwing the games away; they are competitive.
Well,
the Australia one is a bit of
throwing the game away is tough because they could have beaten us in those last 20 minutes because they were in our 22 for ages. They just couldn't convert. So, is that not throwing the game away? I think the criticism of England is that they compete for 60 minutes and then they just lose their heads and they make the wrong decisions. I think they had 3 penalties that they chose to go for lineouts every time, and from they got kicked back, like they lost those lineouts or they conceded penalties. It seems like their decision making in those last minutes is woeful. And I think if I know those are fine margins, but that's what a coach coaches, is those last 20 minutes.
But you're absolutely right. The decision making at the end was terrible. They should have taken the 3 points, kicked for poles.
Yes, I never thought I'd hear that from you.
I hate admitting that, but in that instance, you're 9 points back. Kick for poles, get the 3 points, put yourself within a converted try, because you don't know what can happen. 82 minutes out.
It seems like they always want to, because they did this against. Did they do this against Australia as well? I think so. Or was it against New Zealand? I don't know. They seem to that they always have this one script in their head that they want to get themselves either within a penalty or a drop goal to win it.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case. Just get yourself within a try scoring distance and try to go from there. I don't know. I think with Borthwick it's probably the same as with Gatland. Who do you get to replace him? Because I think they have spent a lot of money on replacing Eddie Jones and his whole coaching staff. I think to replace Borthwick now would be tough. But if he struggles in the Six Nations, then see you later.
I don't know. I think they're going to keep him around because of.
Why are you standing up for Steve Borthwick?
I don't like this guy. I don't like him at
Is that why
all.
you want to keep him in the? Is this a
100%.
reverse?
It's reverse psychology. Keep him, England. It's a good coach for you.
I don't think we have any English fans.
Maybe one.
Maybe not definitely not any in the English Rugby Union.
Well, technically, my mom's English, so. But I don't think she cares about rugby. No, there's been so much chop and changing in England's management team with the likes of Felix Jones and that other, I don't know what his name was.
Oh yeah.
The conditioning coach.
Yeah.
Leaving or being asked to left. I don't know what exactly went down. So I think there's just been a lot of disruption, and I think they just need to spend a little bit of time together and stop chucking people in and out of the system.
I started to notice that I forgot that you have an English passport as well. Now I know why you're flipping standing up for coming up with random excuses for the English here.
No, that's not the case. I'm trying to think of how it would be if it were South Africa.
Fire him.
Fire him. Well, that's what most people would call for his head. That's true.
You got to go the Man United way.
Get rid of Eric Ten Hag. Cut him at the knees.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily the way that I think one should move forward. I think
Okay, fine. So
sometimes
you
these
think
guys
if he
need-
struggles in the Six Nations, let's say they finish third in the Six Nations, they'll still keep him.
they finished third of the Six Nations. I don't think that's necessarily a bad spot for them to finish. You're competing against Ireland and
Ireland
France.
and France are not as good as they were.
They aren't.
It's the most open Six Nations I think we've got because,
But that being said, I think you can go either way. Because like, look at Scotland. They could even go and
Klaus, I'm
get the
starting to
victory.
understand why you're a Tottenham fan. They've also have won nothing. You can't finish third and call that a success.
I'm not calling it a success. I don't think it's enough reason. If they finish like fifth or sixth, that's a massive loss. I think if they finish third, it's just like an average Six Nations.
Okay, I think you're underestimating the pressure that the English press is already putting on Borthwick.
Oh no, they put a ton of pressure on it. I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen.
Oh, you just think you wouldn't fire him.
That's just how I would go about it.
But surely you're just extending mediocrity then. Because when are the excuses not going to be, there's chopping and changing, they haven't had enough time together, or there's injured players that maybe they needed. Eventually, someone has to put their hand up for some accountability.
Okay. I see what you... Look, I completely see what you're saying.
Okay. I feel like
just
we're this is
Yeah.
like arguing about who packs the dishwasher better. We're going into fucking no man's land here. Let's go into some games for the weekend. There's
Yes.
not that many big games this weekend. It seems like the big ones have now passed. We're playing Wales, heavy favourites. The only biggish one that I would say that's going to be really competitive is Australia-Scotland. And I'm intrigued to hear what you're thinking there, mainly because I don't know who to pick for my predictor.
You don't think Argentina-France is a big game?
I do think that. Didn't have that in my head.
Okay.
It'd be great if Argentina beat France.
But let's start with Scotland first. I think Scotland-Australia is going to be very entertaining because I think Australia has now shown themselves to be on the same level as where Scotland is.
Yeah.
And I think they also both play very attacking rugby. So I think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game.
Yeah.
I don't know which way it's going to go.
You just don't want to tell me.
No, I literally don't know. I mean,
To be fair, you and I, oh no, this predictor game, you're actually quite good.
not really.
Okay. So
Also, I let one of my mates pick all of my teams last week, and he did a terrible job. I'm not doing that mistake again. But I would love to see Scotland win.
Yeah.
I think Scotland's just got a special place in everybody's heart.
Yeah.
But look, Australia is a threat, and one cannot underestimate them currently.
No. I think after having been at Murrayfield, I haven't been to that many rugby stadiums, but I don't know what will beat, because I keep rewatching them singing their anthem. Gives me goosebumps every time. Love that stadium. Definitely want to go back. Even if it's not for a South Africa game, I think we should get out there.
So what do you think, Scotland and Australia?
I'm not telling you,
Why not?
because I've already made my prediction. No, I think Scotland will win.
Scotland.
I think it's going to be a tight game. Also, I don't know if Australia are that good yet. I think they've really shown in 2 games that they've got potential, but I think maybe Scotland sneak through with it.
Okay.
The other big game of the weekend, as I mentioned, Argentina versus France.
Yeah.
I think, I can't see it. I can't see Argentina beating them. I wish they would, but I can't. I don't think Argentina is better than New Zealand, and
They beat them in the championship.
yeah, now we're going on. I don't think Argentina are a better team right now than New Zealand, and I think New Zealand played pretty well against France, and they couldn't get it over the line. And it's in France. There's always some shady things that happen when you play in France.
Suddenly the TMO
Suddenly the
doesn't
TMO
have its
doesn't
comms
have-
anymore.
Yeah, then the lights go off. That haka though was pretty cool in France, in Paris,
It was.
with only the lights on. What do you think?
I think Argentina's going to do it. I honestly do think they're going to do it. They are just... The way that they played against Ireland was so good.
Yeah,
A terrible start, granted, but they played so well towards the end, or the last third,
Yeah.
that I really believe they can do it.
okay. I
And-
mean,
And I'm putting my money where my mouth's at, and that's who I'm predicting in our prediction game as well.
well, no, now you've said you're putting money down. What are
Yeah,
we
fine.
betting here?
You want to put a 5
No, I don't want to bet because I don't really want France to win. That would feel like a double loss.
I think Argentina's going to... The by the same margin that they lost against Ireland, I think they're going to beat France.
so-
I think it's going to be a tight one.
Yeah.
But I think they're gonna pip them.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. And maybe I might change my prediction later. I'll think about it.
Okay.
The rugby, what do you call them? The rugby awards.
Yeah.
Have come out with a short list of candidates. Let's run through first emerging player of the year. You've got, I don't even know you've got on there. You've got Sasha on there, and you've got Satiti. Those are, in my head, the two favorites.
In my head as well.
Take your tinted South Africa glasses off and tell me objectively why Sasha deserves to win it.
Take my bias out of the picture and then tell you why I think you should
Because
win.
I think Satiti is favorite. Because
Mm.
I think he's played more matches. I don't know. I think Sasha played 8 this year, from what I remember.
Mhm.
But he did miss the end of year tour, so he's not as fresh in our minds.
I honestly think that's going to be the deciding factor, is the fact that he hasn't come up and played.
Does it matter that Satiti played Sasha twice and Sasha won both times? Did he play him twice? Did he play both New Zealand games? Or did he didn't play one? I know he beat them in one.
He beat them in one. I don't know if he maybe come off the bench.
I don't know.
I can't remember.
Does that impact it? So here's
No, because that's a team effort that won
yeah,
or
but I
lost
mean, you would
season.
argue that Sasha's performances in those mid-year games won us some.
Sure. I mean, for him, what's important is that he's a fly half. So for him, how does he
Yeah.
manage the team? It says more about him when the team wins than maybe like a winger does.
Yeah, I heard this argument made, but I can't remember by who. I hope it's not a retired fly half. That it's more difficult for a fly half than it is for a flank to be that good, because
I don't know if that's true, because I was looking at to be that good, to be nominated.
yeah,
I don't know if that's true, because if you look at the nomination history list,
yeah,
I think there are more flankers. Granted, there's 2 flankers in each team
but I mean,
that have been nominated for World Player of the Year than fly halves.
you think more flankers have been? Yes, because it's easier. That's why Richie
Yeah.
McCaw did it. Could cheat at the breakdown.
Yeah, Josh van der Fleer,
Josh van der Fleer, Peter Steph du Toit,
pretty sure Pocock's been in there before.
probably.
Michael Hooper, maybe.
What's his name? Adi Savia won it, didn't he?
Yeah, he won it 2 years ago.
And I think
last year.
did Dupont win it?
Last year he won.
Yeah.
Dupont.
There's a lot of France people are upset that Dupont's not on the list, and I think to myself, he wasn't playing. He was in the sevens.
Yeah, exactly. He could go into the sevens Player of the Year.
Yeah. Okay. So you think Satiti's going to win it? I think it's a tight one.
I think it's a tight one, but I think there's more. I don't know how do you. There's more, like, people are talking about Satiti more, and I think that's.
He's a great player.
He's an amazing player. I mean, both are completely deserving.
They deserve it. Yeah.
No, obviously, personally, I find Sasha very exciting. And
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a superstar. I mean, everybody thinks he's going to be a superstar. I don't want to tell them that to his face, because I want the guy needs to be, not that he gives a shit what I think, but like, one would hope that Rusty manages to keep his feet on the ground and keep him humbled. But he is going to win.
Yeah.
Accolades to Kingdom Come. The guy, he's so good.
Well, it's really pumping the Oaks tires.
Yeah, I did. But stay grounded.
We'd really have egg on our face if one of the other 2 nominees really wanted, and we haven't spoken about them. But I don't think
who
it's
are they?
possible. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I can't bring it up in my head.
I think there's an Irish guy.
There's an Irish guy, and I think the other one's another New Zealander. If I'm not, no, it's Feo Bosu from England.
Oh yeah,
He's also really
also
good. He's really good.
But I don't think he's going to get it.
I think it would be strange if he got it.
Yeah.
But I watched a little bit of him now during this Autumn Nation series, and he's electric. And I'm glad he didn't play against us.
Very grand.
Yeah.
Very grand.
Let's go through the.
Very grand. Grand. That's
Let's go through the awards, the nominees for Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Cheslin, Eben,
Yes.
Peter Steph,
Yes.
and Caelan Doris.
There we have it.
If Caelan Doris wins this,
And there's a conspiracy.
there is
theory.
a massive conspiracy. And I just said South African fans should stay humble. Fuck no.
Not in this case.
So I'm going to tell you why Cheslin Colby deserves to win this.
Just give me your full 60 minutes.
That man is so versatile
Mm.
on the field. I mean, not just for South Africa, what he did for Toulon beforehand, like just drop goals from 40, 50 meters, line-out throws for South Africa, covering different positions. And then what he...
It's player of the year, hey? So you can't look at what he's done in the past. You've got to look at what he's done this year. But I agree with everything you said.
I'm leading up to my crescendo here,
I'm sorry.
Klaus.
Just
Why are you trying to clip my wings?
I'm taking the wind out of your sails.
No, I don't know what to say anymore.
He's so versatile.
Don't patronize me. So I feel like every time he gets the ball, he creates chances, either for himself or for the man on his inside or outside. Now you've completely taken the wind out of my sails. I just think Cheslin Colby deserves it. He's the best player I've ever seen, and I think he's going to go down as one of the best in history.
From that list, I also believe that Cheslin should win it.
Then why are you trying to argue with me?
No, I'm not trying to argue with you. I was just saying, like, in terms of keeping this conversation
relevant
within its parameters.
Okay.
I also think he's going to win it. I think, besides the fact that what he does with the ball in hand is absolutely incredible, and the versatility. I mean, he was throwing lineouts, he was playing scrum half, he was playing.
I don't think he played scrum half this year.
He did play scrum half
against who?
Well, he didn't play scrum half, but they were. Remember that game against?
I'm being
Argentina, where I think him and Kubis like shared halves of the field. It's almost like everything that happened on the left-hand side of the field, Kubis was scrum half, and everything that happened on the right-hand side, he was scrum half.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. He didn't come out as number 9, no. But he threw lineouts like a hooker, but he didn't play number 2.
Yeah.
I would like to see him in a scrum, though. That would be pretty cool. He could probably do it as well. So that versatility is just unparalleled. I haven't seen that in another player. I mean, you can argue that Dupont has those capabilities, but
he didn't play.
He hasn't shown it. But what Cheslin Colby does off the ball, in terms of running back and forth, cleaning out rucks, making tackles, all of that sort of stuff, is unparalleled. His work ethic is unreal. I would rival that against Peter Steph du Toit.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's that hard a worker.
Yeah. Okay.
And so for that reason alone, I would give the award to him.
Because he would be second on my list. Peter Steph. Yeah.
He would be second on my list as well. He's had an incredible year, and you see it with with that charge down and then scoring a try. I mean, that was unreal that the ball stayed in. I was convinced it was going out. I was actually upset because I looked away. I saw him charge down. So Eben charged down the first. He charged down the second. I was convinced the ball was going to go out for a 5-meter line out.
Yeah.
Or it wouldn't. I don't think it would be a 5-meter line out. I don't know what it is then, actually. Anyway, and it didn't. And I was like, oh, shit, it's going to go over the line at the back. And then I looked away.
Where were you looking?
I think I looked at Bjorn or something like that. I don't know.
You're immediately gonna chew his ear off again about something.
I was like, oh, and then I looked away, and then I looked, and everybody's celebrating a try. I was like, what happened? And then I only saw it on the replay. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Very good.
So that kind of work ethic, I mean, he's definitely got it. Well, how many tackles did he make in the World Cup final last year? I know it doesn't count to this year, but that just shows his work ethic. Eben, incredible player.
That's the same as Kalen Doris. I think those two.
Kalen Doris. I would have given Eben the award last year, if anything, because he played so well last year. This year, he played incredibly well, just not well enough to get the award, I don't think.
Yeah.
But still well enough to get nominated, definitely.
For sure. I think it's going to be tight, and like I said, we'll burn that place to the ground if it's not a South African winning it.
But let me ask you a question. Who do you think has been gravely hard done by
in
terms of not getting nominated? Not necessarily winning, but not getting nominated.
Let me not just think of South Africans here. Yes. Oof. You clearly have someone in mind, otherwise you wouldn't ask such a leading question. You're thinking of a South African?
I'll give you one hint.
If it's Ox, then...
It is Ox.
Because social media is flooded with that. A prop doesn't win Best Player of the Year.
And why not?
I'm not saying they shouldn't, but they don't.
Yeah.
It's like in football when they give the Ballon d'Or, they usually give it to the people who score a lot of goals.
Yeah.
They don't give it to a left back or a right back.
You know that a prop has never even been nominated.
That's
ever.
a pity.
And I was watching a not a podcast, but a rugby review channel called Egg Chasers, and he's been going on about Ox having to get a nomination.
Was he a retired prop himself?
No.
Okay.
I think he was a flanker or something like that. And he was saying that and I agree with him, the scrum is so important in rugby union.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't have the scrum, then we might as well just have like the likes of like centers in terms of physique running around the field. You don't need anybody else.
Yeah.
So just have them running around the field, and then you've got rugby league. So the scrum is so important to our game. Why not honor that in the likes of one of these big boys?
For sure. I think it's such a technical thing that I think only people who are in the scrum, and probably the front row even more so, understand what it takes to be really good at that craft. That I think the general rugby watching public doesn't understand how difficult it is. There's a lot of respect for the scrum, but I don't think the technicality is appreciated. And I guess because they're usually hauled off in any team after 50, 60 minutes, gives a false impression of their impact on the game. It's just that I think what they do is really tiring. But yeah, I'm completely with you. I think we should have taken Caelan Doris out and put Ox in there and made it a 4 out of 4.
Because if you look at scrums, if you've got a team that's dominating the scrums, they usually dominate the entire game.
Yeah.
Because they just have front football.
For sure.
So it is a very important part of the game, and it is very, as you say, very integral in the game, but also very complicated and very complex. Like when you hear props talk about scrums, I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're on about. They're talking about taking the hit, then moving back again to get them off balance, then pushing for.
Yeah.
I mean, in Chasing the Sun too, Ox talks about it.
Yeah.
And it's just, as you said, it's something that we can't understand because
It also
we've
doesn't
never been
understand the scrum as a ref.
Refs also, I feel like it's willy-nilly.
You see some knees on the ground sometimes. You see your oak scrumming inwards and the ref blows for something completely different. And I'm like, either you don't know what's going on or I have no idea what's going on. Both could be very, very possible.
Both could be true at the same time.
All right, so Ox was robbed.
Ox
but
was
I don't
robbed.
think he needs those awards. I think give him a cake and he's happy anyway.
Yeah, just don't give him a salad.
Yeah. I think that wraps up our rugby chat for now. I want to float something by you, which has come out in the news regarding golf. So Ryder Cup is obviously something that's not paid. You get selected, but you don't get paid. And some athletes, usually on the American side, were upset about that because obviously the Ryder Cup generates a lot of revenue. It's come out now that the US plans to pay their athletes $400,000 per person for the Ryder Cup. Now, on the one hand, I think, I put it to you, does this give the Europeans even more motivation to say, we don't need to play for money to beat you, and you getting paid for this now just makes you the impure ones? Or secondly, on the flip side, do you think that something like 400,000 is such a drop in the water for these guys that it's just something symbolic and the Europeans should do it too?
There's a lot of mixed emotions going on in my head about this. First of all, I think the Europeans don't care.
Rory's come out and said he's against it. And
he's against it.
Yeah. The Ryder Cup should be something that is an honor to be called up for, just like the Olympic Games.
Yeah. So I would have thought that the Europeans wouldn't care if they paid or not.
Yeah.
I think they're quite happy to do it just for the pure passion of it.
Yeah.
I might be completely wrong, but that's kind of what I would think. I also don't think that the Americans being paid is going to somehow motivate them to do better.
I think it might. I think it might because I think it creates something of an imbalance. And anything that makes the Europeans even more, puts them more in an underdog or in a lesser state, gives them even more bite because
But we're talking about the best golfers in the world, essentially, competing against
Yes.
one another. So they're winning or they're taking home millions of euros every year.
absolutely.
So
But it's something
400,000
symbolic.
It is symbolic.
It's the fact
I
that
think
the,
it-
Euro-
I
it's
think
the
it's-
fact that the Americans need to be paid to play for their country, and the Europeans will do it just out of pride.
And that's why I don't think that they're gonna. That's why I don't think it's gonna motivate them enough, because I think
Talking about inches in this,
I know. But
because they're the best players in the world. If you put them up against each other, it's flip side. This team wins. This team wins. But what's always been said about the Europeans is that they find something that's more than just the game to motivate them, to give
Yeah.
them a united cause.
I don't want to go back to rugby, but the same with the Springboks being so motivated
Yeah.
by like we're fighting for our country. I think the Europeans have got enough there to be like, no, we can.
They do have enough there, but I think this adds to it. That's what I'm saying.
You're saying it adds to the Europeans as like, screw
Motivation.
you, we're gonna.
I think it's
Now take you on even
just
harder.
another bow in their, what do you call it?
String in their bow.
String in their bow. I was pointing at the arrow thing.
No, the arrow in their quiver.
There we go. Look at that.
Yeah, maybe. So they now have to agree with you in the sense that I think it will motivate the Europeans more than it will motivate the Americans. I also think like, why the heck are these guys wanting to be paid
Well, this is
for
what
one tournament? I'm all for getting paid for your work.
Yeah.
But this is no longer work. This is like people want to be chosen, want to be selected. It's not I have to do this because otherwise I'm going to lose my house. If anything, they should say if they get paid, I think the honorable thing for them to do is, and this is rich coming from me,
it's to donate it.
is to donate it. Yeah, say like, okay, we'll give you 400K, but it'll go to a charity of your choosing.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this, and I've tried to put myself in that mindset, and the only thing that I can come up with, because financially it can't make that big of a difference to them, the only thing that I can imagine is the Ryder Cup generates so much revenue, and it's similar to what college athletes had in America for a long time that they couldn't earn. If what you're partaking in and what you're creating creates this much revenue, and that money goes towards institutions that you're a part of. In this case, it's the PGA Tour or Golf of, I don't think it's the PGA, I think it's Golf America and the European Tour. If you don't like the way those organizations are run, and if you don't think that they adequately spend the money that they get, that creates something in you that probably means I'd rather have that money myself than give it to them.
Yeah.
It's similar to when you pay taxes and you think that the government is wasting your money.
Yeah.
And I think when that happens, because I know golfers are very critical of the respective tours and how golf is run, you'll probably have people who are running tours and who are in those things who are earning a lot of money, who maybe shouldn't. And that's the only reason that I could think of them saying they want to be paid.
And I think it probably is that. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, being paid, as we said, like that amount of money is not going to make a difference to them at all. And I'd say it's the same as like when a lot of players moved over to live and saying like, hey, you would also rather work a 4-day week and get paid more. So why can't we sort of, why do you expect something different from us? So for that mindset, I completely agree with. And so that is then more a problem with the Ryder Cup and their transparency of where that money is going and what they're doing with it. That money that they're generating should then go into academies, helping, I don't know, underprivileged golfers,
The
get
usual
their first clubs, that
the
kind
usual
of stuff.
Grassroots level.
But I think they should be fighting for that more than they should be fighting for.
And I think that's
give me a
something that they're
paycheck.
fighting for generally, but you know how it is. If you these organizations will always drag their feet, and I think there's always a misappropriation of funds in these organizations. And I think if you're a member of it and you're a big member of it and you think that you bring the value to this organization and you're not really heard, then that's frustrating. But yeah, I'm still.
But in that case, you've got other means of doing that, and one of the means, this would only work if you've got enough players that are aligned.
Yeah.
The top 10 players in the world all boycotted it.
Yeah, for sure.
And you've lost the competition.
I actually don't even think that there's that many on the US team who demand to be paid. I only know of one guy. Who's the guy who didn't want to wear his hat?
Brooks.
No, the guy who didn't want to wear his hat.
No.
Patrick Cantley.
Okay.
He's been quite vocal about wanting to be paid. I don't know how many other players are actually on that on that train. So I don't want to throw them all in the same
Okay.
boat and say all of them have put their hands up. But I think it's just something interesting to see. In other golf news, Rory finally won again. He won in Dubai, won the Race to Dubai Championship.
Saw the photos there with his wife and kid.
Yeah, he's chuffed. Good for him. Good to end the year with a win because he's certainly struggled to push through and get over the line.
Yeah. In the old PGA, we had a little showdown there between Corder and Hull. Charlie Hull.
Yeah.
And I mean, the way that Nelly played on the final day was unreal.
Yeah.
She was throwing darts all over that course.
You're a big Nelly Corder fan.
I'm also a big Charlie Hull fan.
Okay.
I think the two of them are really, really cool.
Yeah.
Both just personality-wise,
Yeah.
but then also the way they play the game is really impressive. I mean, Nelly's won 7 times this year. That's very impressive.
Very impressive.
Very, very good.
I think on that women's tour, there's a lot of equality in terms of people winning because it's so close. So if you show a little bit of dominance, that's quite impressive.
I mean, remember she started the season so hot, and then she win like 4-5 in a row.
Yeah.
Then she had a bit of a lull, and now she's ended the tour or ended the year off with another win.
Very cool.
Congratulations to her.
Congratulations to you,
Congratulations to you, Nelly. If you ever watch this,
if you want to follow Claus on Instagram, he'd be very excited.
Yeah, you can be my 502nd follower.
And a random tidbit of news before we wrap it up.
Well, I've got one story I want to talk about after that. But
Pierre Gasly might be the first F1 racer to not cost his team any money in damage over a F1 season, which has come out now, and I think there's still 2 races to go.
I think there's 3
races to go, which to me seems like a big voodoo over his head now.
No, they've completely jinxed it. This is the commentator's curse. He's definitely going to be in an accident, and he's going to cause it himself.
And I also find it a very weird stat because I think he's very much part of the midfield and hasn't really competed for anything. And I'm pretty sure
I might be lying, but I think Alpine and that green car are like last.
Yeah, so I think his team, I don't know how they're doing for money, but I think they wouldn't mind if he maybe took a risk here and there and tried to go for a few points.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
It's like the stat that Per Mertesacker never got a yellow card for his I think he got some in the end, but for like a ridiculously long time, this guy didn't get yellow cards, and he was also distinctly average for a while. But let me not say he's a fucking World Cup winner and great footballer, but that was a weird stat that
I
it was
rather have him
get
a couple yellow cards and play a bit better.
Yeah.
But let's see. There's still 3 races left. I think everybody's going to be watching him a little bit closer.
I think that might be the most
purely based on
thing.
that. Exactly. Nobody cares about the World Championship anymore. Everybody's just looking to see if he gets a scratch on his car.
Yeah. All right. Tell me what you want to talk about.
So we had a really cool conversation with one of our school friends, or one of your close friends, especially in London, and her boss is a billionaire through the sale of psychedelics.
Yeah.
And he's very much into the whole industry of drugs and how can it help you, how can it benefit you. And so I think he, with a couple of other very wealthy people, I don't think it's just him alone, wants to start an Olympic Games with steroids, or not with steroids,
doping.
but with enhancing drugs, with doping.
Called the Enhanced Games.
The Enhanced Games. And now my question to you is twofold. A, do you think it's cool and will be entertaining? And B, would you be worried about the message that it sends to children to maybe start experimenting with drugs outside of
You're asking me deep line questions.
Professional consultation.
Jesus, Klaus.
Well, that's because I think...
Is that what it boils down to?
Because I think this is why drugs or enhancing drugs have been banned, is because the risk of side effects, the risk of health. And so now you're creating a games where it's promoted.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily... And I know they're going to have doctors and physicians on site.
It's not just going to be oaks in their room just
it's not
sticking anything they want in their injection like you were on a video call, just fucking juicing themselves.
This is not underground drug dealing.
But I see where you're coming from.
This is clinically sort of...
Now you're asking me tough questions here to finish off the podcast.
Keep it juicy, you know, just like these guys.
So on the one hand, I would find it extremely entertaining because I want to see what the human body is capable of in an enhanced state. because I'm not sure in the world today who is doping and who isn't in professional athletes. So if I know that they are enhanced with substances, what they're achieving, then let's say someone runs 100 meters in under 9 seconds, then, which is hard to believe, then I know what I can attribute of that to
Doping.
enhancing drugs. But yeah, I had never considered the fact that what messages it sends to the youth. Yeah, it's obviously not great then, probably. So I don't know. He was on that Joe Rogan and he talked about it for a while, and I still haven't listened to that podcast. And I wonder if they touch on that on what the side effects of something like that would be. You clearly have a thought on this, because otherwise you wouldn't have brought it up.
I don't necessarily have a thought on it. I just don't know how it's all going to be. I don't know.
It's coming out in 2025, apparently.
It's supposed to be happening next year.
It's supposed to be the first game. It's going to be, I think, limited. I don't think you're going to see badminton players on sports and arms drugs playing with 2 rackets in their hands.
It's also going to be interesting to see what kind of drugs different people use, because I guess in some instances you're going to use something like Ritalin to give you hyperfocus. In other instances you're going to use...
You don't want to swim and just fucking smoking a lot of weed and then just
so you just float.
Just doggy paddling in the pool. That's not what I want to see.
No, I don't think anyone wants to see that. Or the Colombians just snorting cocaine before they jump in the pool.
Klaus.
I mean,
I think it's probably not as big in the Colombians as it is in Europe.
True. Or the Brits.
Put that in front of a Brit.
Hoovering it up. What I also am intrigued to see is what kind of athletes are going to go, because I don't see professional athletes that will want to compete at the Olympics.
Can never go back.
They would they would tarnish their career, and they would never be able to go back. So the athletes that are going to compete, are they even the best in the world?
I see what you mean.
So it's not like we're going to see the best in the world, Usain Bolt, then enhance himself, and then go run and see what the human body is capable of.
So don't you think maybe it'll be the guys that are maybe, I don't know what the lifespan of an athlete is when you're, let's say, do track and field, but I would be surprised if you could be over 35 and still be competing at like something like the 100 meter.
So you think it's going to be like...
I think it's going to be the guys that are just past that who can extend their career with performance enhancing drugs, whereas beforehand they couldn't.
But then they're already off their peak, right?
So all we're watching is just a couple of fucking grandpas.
Yeah, we're just going to watch a couple of geriatrics who run sub 10, 100.
To be fair, that'd be
pretty entertaining.
Like some dude in his fucking 60s just absolutely crushing a javelin throw out of the stadium.
From his wheelchair.
I think we might have a false perception of what's happening here. I also know that we only spoke about it to her for very briefly, so we're not 100% sure on what the regulations will be.
Also, it was in a bar that was extremely loud, so I'm pretty sure I only caught about 10% of the conversation in the first place.
Okay. Yeah, let's do some independent research, maybe bring this up on the next show.
As the saying goes, let's let ourselves be pleasantly surprised.
If it is the geriatrics. I'm here for that.
I'll buy tickets to go watch it in person.
Right, let's get to some plays of the week. I'll start us off. My play of the week goes to a Springbok who wasn't nominated for this tour, but who put down one of the best performances I've ever seen, Edwil van der Merwe. We saw him in a pub before the Twickenham game, and he just seemed like a very pleasant guy. Stood next to you for, I think, what must have been like half an hour or 45 minutes, and just chatted away. It seemed like a very heartwarming thing, because in the days prior, a friend of ours who had been on tour with him and was working with him had posted a picture, and you said, "You're living my dream, Reggie," and then look at that.
No, I lived my own dream.
You lived your own dream.
Yeah, no, what an absolutely nice, genuine oak.
Absolutely nice.
Absolutely nice.
That's one of the...
Genuinely,
I think of an
nice.
English teacher that we had heard that. Absolutely nice.
Well, I think we've had this conversation before. My English is not too well. It's not that good. I try my best though. No, but it was really lovely to meet him first and foremost, and then the fact that he was up for having a conversation, whether by choice or just out of pure sort of.
What did you talk about mainly? Did you talk about the Lions? Did you talk about rugby? Did you talk about his personal life?
All of the above.
Everything.
I think it started with how he's enjoying England. Then I spoke a bit about his injury because he had rolled his ankle.
You obviously spoke about your injury.
You know what? Funny, obviously, this was actually the first thing he asked me. It's like, oh, what happened? I was like, nah, tag rugby. He's like, oh, okay. Like, lame. But then he actually, remember we were talking about maybe getting myself like a scooter where you could kneel on it.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you should get yourself the scooter. And I was like,
You
my
see.
mates have been talking about it. And you pulled up a photo and you showed me. He says, yeah, it's an absolute game changer. He said he would go into Woolies and that's how he would do his shopping and you just sort of wheel himself around.
This is all a ploy by you, so I do all your shopping. That's why you didn't get it.
Correct. Then we spoke about his personal life, about him and his wife, and how he's enjoying Joburg because he's actually a Cape Town boy.
How is he enjoying Joburg?
He's enjoying it a lot.
Really?
He really, really likes it.
Where does he stay? Don't give his entire address to the...
I don't have his entire address, but he stays in Bryanston.
Oh, okay, nice.
And he says that he's been very warmly welcomed into Joburg life. He says the Lions team is a great setup and a great bunch of young players, and he's also just talking about how exciting it is being in a team where you don't have the funds and the means of the big unions, but they just play with a lot of heart and soul. So stuff like that. Also talking about the Springboks. I was asking about like how that was sort of going into the Springboks, especially when you have like these superstars that you're meeting for the first time. And he says everybody's super welcoming. He says he's very close with Grant Williams.
Yeah.
Cracked the joke that he only hangs out with people who are quick, which he laughed about, I think begrudgingly. I was trying to be funny. I probably wasn't.
Goodness. Oh, I'm so glad I didn't hear that.
It's a good thing you're out of earshot.
Yeah, that would have made me cringe.
Yeah, then he was talking about, just, him, Mornay van der Berg, and Kieran Horn were the 3 Lions players who have gotten their first caps with the Lions.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that.
What was the other thing that you said that made me cringe? Oh my God, when we got into the taxi on the way to the Uber to the way to the stadium, and you said to this guy, oh, you're also wearing green, you must be for the Springboks. And this guy's like,
Who's that?
me? And you were like, you're wearing green, eh? You're going to the rugby too. And the guy's like, sorry? And you just wouldn't let it go. And in the end, the guy's like, no, I actually watch more football. And you're like, damn. Your dad joke fell
right through.
Flat.
Yeah, but what am I supposed to do? Just ignore him?
I was sitting in the back and I was like trying to wiggle into my jacket. I was like, please stop. Please stop. And you just kept going in with the joke.
The problem was I didn't know how to get out of it.
Okay.
I was caught in a loop because he kept on saying, excuse me, sorry,
Yeah.
excuse me. So I felt like, well, what did I say? Never mind.
Yeah.
Like,
Why can't you just say...
I felt that was rude. Like, the guy is...
Bless. You're such a pure-hearted guy, Klaus. I mean, the fact that you even went into that, I was like... Oof. I mean, to be fair, when you sit in the front of an Uber or a taxi, you are, for some weird reason, very inclined to speak to the guy.
Yeah.
Where that's not the case if you're sitting in the back. Well, maybe for you. You're shooting at a guy's wedding.
Oh, man. Yeah. So, just so that anybody who's listening understands what Maxie's on about, I got driven home by an Uber not too long ago, and the guy was asking me where he's picking me up from, and I told him it was a film set. And he says, oh, okay, cool. Well, good to know. He's got a proposal coming up, and he wants it to be filmed. And then he proceeded to show me a proposal that he wants to essentially reenact with a helicopter ride and a violinist and a red carpet out of the helicopter and rose petals everywhere. Like this massive bouquet of roses that some dude in a tuxedo brings to him. And he wants me to film this. And he was asking me how much it would cost. And I just...
You pulled a number out.
I just pulled a number out that
and
I
thought it would be high enough. So
that I thought he definitely wouldn't go for. And he was like, cool, sign me up. And I was like, oh, shit. And then...
you have to be in the helicopter.
I have to be in the helicopter.
Jesus Christ.
I proceeded to throw one of my freelancers under the bus and say, like, no, he would rather do it. He's much better at this.
Okay.
And when
Has this guy messaged you on Instagram?
No, he didn't. Thank
Okay.
Thank
Okay, so that's fallen flat.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think he could sense that I was not interested.
And you couldn't really escape.
The funny thing is, at the end, when I got out of the car, he said he leant out the window and he says to me, he's like, I'm going to message you on Instagram. Don't ghost me. Like, that's not terrifying at all.
You should have said you don't live at this address. You should have fucking let you drop you.
I actually live down the street.
Tell me about your play of the week.
My play of the week. Ooh. My play of the week has to go to you. As you mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, you stayed with friends of ours who have 2 baby boys, 2 twins, or a pair of twins, and I know how you are in the morning, and that by the sounds of it, these kids would come into your room and just jump on you.
It's hectic.
And both parents both said, yeah, Maxi did so well with the kids, and we're really impressed. So my play of the week goes out to you, because I know how hectic that is for you.
So I'm not very good with kids usually, but if I get the vibe from a kid that the kid likes me, then I'm way more open to the kid,
Right.
you know? And yeah, they came in. I think the respect that I've gained is that there's not a lot of time you get in the day that is not on. You don't have to be on. Like when they're that age, you need to entertain them so much.
Yeah.
And it's only when they go for 2 hours of a nap time in the afternoon that you can actually just like sit there and like
Have your own
stare at the
time.
wall for like an hour, because you're like, Jesus, that was intense.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're very, very cute. But yeah, I think on the last day, usually they go to their parents at like 5 or 6 in the morning. And then only at like 7 or 8 did the parents like come into my room with them. And then they were like, hello.
Knowing the parents, I feel like they push the kids in a little
on the
bit.
last day, the one kid bypassed the parents and came straight into my room.
Oh, is it?
And I woke up and he was standing next to him and he goes, Maxi. And I was like, that's me.
Okay, it's go time.
Maxi had a lot of alcohol last night. I need a bit. Yeah. They don't take there's no regard for how much you drank the night before, or how your sleep was. You have to be on it. But hey, listen, I don't have kids.
That's parenthood, eh?
That's not something I have to worry about. So, blessed.
Blessed.
Hashtag blessed. Thanks,
Cool.
Klaus. I appreciate it. We'll see you again next week. Hopefully, Dom's with us again. I think he's back on Friday,
week.
actually.
Yeah.
And then you leave. When do you come back? Sunday.
I leave on Friday, come back on Monday morning.
Right.
Yeah.
So we should all be back on the couch next week.
Next week, Tuesday, hopefully.
Lovely.
Nice.
Apologies for the congestion and coughing and all of that.
Well done for pulling through.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Cheers.
Bye.